While discussing our wedding plans, I discovered Anthony's diary from when he was 16. She's so fat and she likes me. It's quite disgusting. I've got a girlfriend now. Hope she'll give up and stop looking at me like that. The diary entries stopped on May 13th. That was the day I sacrificed my weightlifting career to save him. I vaguely remembered him asking me, "Do you want to be together?" in our first year at university. When I agreed, he looked so relieved. I thought we were in love with each other. But it turns out, it was just him struggling for years to repay a debt of gratitude. Suddenly, I felt it all meaningless. I called off the engagement and left the Green family. A few months later, one night, he drove to wait outside my flat. His eyes turned red seeing the man beside me. "Who's he? Is he your boyfriend?" Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. The summer night carried a hint of coolness. Anthony Green hadn't spoken a word since he entered the house. I sat nervously to one side. Mrs. Green held my hand, gesturing for me to relax. She turned to Anthony and said, "If you don't want to settle down, just say so. It's been 7 years now. Do you still want to get married or not?" It's only because Myra is so patient and doesn't feel rushed. But that's because she loves you, not because what you're doing is right. Mrs. Green's cheeks flushed with anger. "How did I end up with a son like you?" I patted her back. "Really, there's no rush." "How can there be no rush?" She turned to me. "This boy has wasted your entire life. If he doesn't want to take responsibility, I won't let him off the hook." "I just don't understand. What on earth does he want?" A lighter was irritably flicked open and closed. Anthony had maintained a cold expression throughout. But after his mother finished speaking, he let out a derisive laugh and looked up. "Fine, let's get married then." He stood up. "Arrange it however you want." He strode upstairs without so much as a glance in my direction. My heart tightened. I said a few words to Mrs. Green and hurried after him. The sound of running water came from the bathroom. Anthony was in the shower. I sat on the bed, staring blankly at the floor. "Do you not want to get married?" The water was too loud, he couldn't hear me clearly. He turned off the tap and opened the door, wearing only a bathrobe around his waist. "What did you say?" His hair was dripping wet, and he hadn't even dried himself properly. Water droplets rolled from his sharp features down to his chest. I blushed furiously, suddenly at a loss for words. While Anthony got dressed, I closed my eyes and counted sheep. It wasn't until his large hand rested on my head that he said, "I'm dressed now. You can open your eyes." I slowly opened them. He was fully clothed, crouching down to look me in the eye. "What did you want to say? Do you not want to get married?" "No, that's not it." He looked away, standing up to tidy away his dirty clothes. "Don't overthink it." But I knew Anthony was lying. He didn't want to get married at all. I wanted to suggest postponing the wedding, or say that I wasn't in a rush, but the words caught in my throat, leaving only a painful lump. I couldn't bear to stay in the room any longer and hurriedly tried to leave. "I'll go to bed then?" He grabbed my hand, frowning in displeasure. "You want to sleep separately?" He lifted my face. "Have you been crying?" "No. I've agreed to everything." "What more do you want me to do?" Anthony felt irritated, his expression turning cold. "If you want to make a fuss, go ahead." In our 7 years together, he had rarely spoken to me so harshly. But at this moment, perhaps overwhelmed by the pressure to marry, he showed his emotions in front of me for the first time without hiding them. I was stunned, feeling for a moment like a stripped bare clown. He didn't look at me again as he left the room. Only the faint scent of his shower gel reminded me of what had happened that day. After this incident, neither Anthony nor I mentioned what had occurred that night. Nor did we bring up postponing the wedding. He just became increasingly taciturn, showing little interest even in choosing the wedding dress. He often worked until late at night. When I messaged him, it would take ages for him to reply with a simple, "busy." He didn't even come home for his mother's birthday. Everyone laughed it off, making excuses. But we all knew it was Antony's way of showing his displeasure towards his mother. I ignored the unease in my heart, pretending nothing had happened, and forced myself to practice smiling. Until a few weeks later, when I woke up one day to find him staring at his phone, lost in thought. "Why aren't you sleeping?" As I tried to sit up, he quickly put his phone away. "Go back to sleep." But in that instant, I had caught a glimpse of the photo on his screen. It was a picture of 17-year-old Antony with 17-year-old Gina Castle. I turned my back to him, feeling as if I'd been plunged into ice-cold water. My mind flashed back to a few years ago, when his childhood friend had looked at me with contempt, saying, "So what if he's with you? You'll never measure up to Gina." He had drawled, "You fat pig." What had I thought back then? I had believed that if I persevered long enough, Antony would eventually fall for me. He would love me someday. But now, the stark truth stared me in the face. My heart felt as if it had been pricked by a needle. He had never forgotten Gina. In that instant, all the strength I had been pretending to have crumbled away. Suddenly, I didn't want to get married anymore. I wanted to leave Antony. After making this decision, I struggled with when to tell them. Since moving in with the Green family during high school, Mrs. Green had always been kind to me. I could see that she truly cared for me and treated me like her own daughter. Because of this, I agonized over how to break the news to them in a way that would minimize the hurt. I postponed the originally scheduled wedding dress fitting, citing work commitments as an excuse. After university, I had started working at a media company, handling PR and marketing for celebrities. Antony wasn't thrilled about my job, as it often required long hours and sometimes even 2 a.m. conference calls. So when I said I was busy, he didn't question it at all. He even seemed a bit relieved. Mrs. Green thought I was being mistreated and gave Antony a thorough scolding. When I returned home, she had just finished the call, her eyes still red. She grabbed her purse and pulled me towards the door. "It's all right, Myra dear. Let's go find him and demand an explanation," she said. "Who returns back would be more important than trying on wedding dresses with his fiancée. He's lost his mind." From Mrs. Green's words, I realized that Gina must be back in town. No wonder Antony had been so distracted lately. No wonder he seemed relieved when I said I couldn't make the dress fitting. It all made sense now. When you're at a loss for words, sometimes all you can do is laugh. Mrs. Green was startled and hugged me tightly. "Oh Myra, I know you're hurting. Don't worry, I'll set things right." "Mrs. Green," I gently pushed her away. "Please let me handle this on my own. I'll take care of it." I went upstairs and stood there in a daze for a moment. I tried to take my mobile out of my bag but fumbled, spilling the contents on the floor. I crouched down, picked up the phone, and decided to just sit against the bed to make the call. The phone rang a few times before connecting. There was a lot of background noise on the other end, making it hard to hear clearly. "What is it?" he asked. "Where are you?" I replied. There was a pause before he let out a cold laugh. "What's this about? Checking up on me?" He moved somewhere quieter. "Myra Sinclair, is all this really necessary? Isn't it enough that you sent my mom to scold me? And now you're calling to have a go at me too? I told you I'd marry you, what more do you want? Where are you?" I repeated, my fingers digging into my palm as I struggled to keep my composure. "Fine, come if you want," he said, giving me an address. After a moment, he added, "If you're coming, bring the file from my study." The line went dead. I stared at the ceiling for a long while, willing myself not to cry. I rarely went into Antony's study, as he preferred I didn't. The room had a typical black and white color scheme, cold and austere like the man himself. I spotted the file on his desk right away and was about to grab it, when my eye caught a diary sitting nearby. Sometimes you get a feeling about things. Like in school, when you somehow know you're about to be called on by the teacher. It was that same feeling now. I knew I shouldn't open it, but I couldn't look away. As I opened the diary, I found myself holding my breath. August 29th, 2015. A new girl moved in today. Mom and Dad say she's an athlete and will be staying with us from now on. She always smells of sweat. It's annoying. I remember that sweltering day when I arrived at the greenhouse with all my belongings. My parents were good friends with Mrs. Green. That year, I had made it onto the county team, and they arranged my transfer to make training more convenient. Anthony was the first to greet me when I arrived. He wore a crisp white t-shirt, his hair neat and tidy. He carried my things inside and asked, "I'm Anthony Green." "What's your name?" "Myra Sinclair," I replied. He smiled and showed me to my room. "Everything's set up for you. Let me know if you need anything, and I'll ask my mum to sort it out." He was so kind and polite then. I stood there awkwardly, looking at him, feeling a soft, warm seed take root in my heart. I never imagined this was how he really felt about me at the time. November 5th, 2015. I think she looks at me strangely sometimes. Surely she doesn't fancy me? She even brought me a birthday gift, a hand-knitted stuffed toy. Justin asked for it, so I gave it to him. The whole thing gives me the creeps. January 3rd, 2016. I hate it when they joke about us being together. March 7th, 2016. She actually confessed her feelings to me. Unbelievable. Does she think she's the heroine in some romance novel? How much longer before she moves out? My throat felt like it was coated in glue. My hands shook as I turned the pages. When I first came to Northminster, I didn't have many friends. No one at school really talked to me, except for the other athletes occasionally. I was mostly on my own. Anthony looked out for me at school. He remembered when I had my period, stood up for me when others teased me, and helped bandage my injuries. Falling for Anthony seemed the most natural thing in the world. Even though I'd realized he didn't love me and was planning to end things. I had never regretted my youthful feelings for him. As a teenager with little money, I'd taught myself to make crafts like others did. That stuffed toy took me weeks to complete, constantly unraveling and remaking it until I got it right. When I gave it to him at the party, everyone stared. I felt awkward and was about to take it back when Anthony accepted it, carefully placing it back in the gift box. "Thank you, I love it," he said. I thought he genuinely liked it. So even when his friend Justin mouthed "fat pig" at me, I didn't let it bother me. My mom always said to save your feelings for those who are kind to you. Anthony liked it, so I was happy. At 17, I never imagined he'd immediately re-gift it to Justin, who tossed it in the bin as soon as he left. I never understood Justin's hostility towards me until later. It was simply because I wasn't pretty. That's why he targeted me so cruelly. But I didn't know that then. I thought Anthony was different from everyone else. I nursed my girlish feelings, no different from most unrequited crushes. Just because I wasn't attractive, I was labeled disgusting and unbearable. When I confessed, I stammered so badly I could barely get the words out. He smiled gently the whole time. "Thank you for your feelings, but I'm not looking to date anyone right now," he said. I wonder what he was really thinking then. I felt nauseous, retching but unable to be sick. The physical reaction made tears fall from my eyes. Gripping the diary, I forced myself to keep reading. April 9th, 2016. I've got a girlfriend now. Hopefully she'll give up and stop looking at me like that. I couldn't help but laugh. For the first time, I realized how ridiculous, how cheap, how utterly worthless my feelings were. But he could have just told me. There were so many chances. If he had just said something, I would have backed off. Why did he keep up the caring act while writing such cruel things? The last entry was dated May 13th. That day, Anthony was confronted by some thugs demanding money. When he refused, things got heated. I jumped in front of him to protect him and ended up being beaten with a pipe. My hand was badly injured, ending my weightlifting career. After that, Anthony broke up with Gina. Not long after, Gina went abroad to study, and they lost touch completely. After starting university, I began to pay more attention to my appearance and fitness. It was then that my relationship with Anthony truly began to change. Perhaps it was because he remembered my kindness. Or maybe it was the romantic lighting that evening. He suddenly took my hand and asked, "Do you still like me?" I was so nervous I could barely look at him. He cupped my neck and leaned in to kiss me. It was my first kiss. with a faint hint of mint. On the first day of our relationship, Anthony brought me to meet Mrs. Green. "We're together now," he said. At that moment, he seemed more relaxed than ever before, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Looking back now, I realized that what I thought was true love was just his misguided attempt to repay a debt of gratitude. When I arrived at the location, Anthony was playing snooker with Justin Calder. His face was like ice, not uttering a word. Justin was stirring things up as usual. "Gina's back. Why don't you just break up with her? Don't tell me you actually can't bear to let her go?" "Hey, I still remember the first time I saw her, all that fat, hugging that stuffed toy she gave you." "Will you shut up?" Anthony put down his cue, about to say something when the door opened from outside. Everyone in the room was startled. Anthony looked panicked for a moment, but seeing me as usual, he calmed down. I handed him the folder. "Here's what you asked for." "Thank you," he said, taken aback. He was about to explain something when he saw me hand over the diary. "Was it fun?" I asked. Unable to control my tears, I choked out, "Was it fun, Anthony Green?" I hurled the diary at him forcefully. He didn't move, his eyes once again filled with panic. He seemed to want to grip my shoulders. Justin stepped forward and shoved me hard. "What's wrong with you?" Slap. I backhanded Justin across the face. "I'm talking to him, why are you butting in? All these years, you've never had a kind word for me. Fat pig, ugly girl, aren't you tired of these words?" "I'm sick of hearing them. What's wrong with me gaining weight for my career as a weightlifter? Is that something to be ashamed of? Who dares to look down on me? Even my parents never commented on my weight or appearance. What right do you have? You're like a leech that won't let go. Anyone who didn't know better would think you fancied me. The way you're always hounding me like a dog." I was furious, my eyes red with anger. Justin was stunned into silence. Anthony hugged me. "Myra, calm down." "I am calm." I shoved him away violently, picked up the diary from the floor, and forced him to open it. The more Anthony read, the paler he became. He mumbled, "Let me explain. Let's break up." I laughed, glaring at him viciously. "Really, it makes me sick just thinking about it." I turned and left without looking back. Anthony tried to follow, but I stopped him. "If you follow me, are you planning to marry me?" He stopped in his tracks, not moving again. He watched me walk away step by step, until I finally disappeared from his sight completely. After confronting Anthony, he avoided me at home for several days. Everyone in the house sensed something was wrong, but no one dared to ask. The first person I told was my mom. She wasn't surprised when she heard. She asked me, "Do you want to come home?" "I need to think about it," I replied. I haven't told Mrs. Green about the breakup yet. Regardless of what happened between Anthony and me, Mrs. Green had always been genuinely kind to me. I didn't want to hurt her. Besides, I couldn't just quit my job on a whim. Starting over always requires courage. After hanging up the phone, I stared at myself in the mirror for a long time. Perhaps due to the nature of my work, surrounded by handsome men and beautiful women, I had become increasingly conscious of maintaining my appearance. Gradually, I had become the pretty girl others referred to. Looking at myself in the mirror, I seemed to see my past self again. Gripping the golf club, bending my knees, squatting down. Practicing day after day. That person had become more and more distant, gradually transforming into the girl with perfect makeup who clocked in and out of work punctually every day. I had become more attractive. Yet I wasn't as happy as I had imagined. I preferred the life of wearing sportswear without makeup, rather than being a tense city girl at all times. Life's choices often come down to a single moment. In the evening, I prepared a table full of dishes. I didn't want to be indecisive like Anthony. I also knew that I had to be the one to bring up the breakup. Otherwise, Mrs. Green would never let it go. After we had eaten and drunk our fill, I spoke up. "Anthony and I have broken up." Before she could say anything, I added, "I was the one who ended it." Mrs. Green's eyes immediately turned red. I held her hand and rested my head on her shoulder. "I know you care about me, But you can't force feelings. I truly don't have feelings for him anymore. I'm planning to resign. I've already submitted my notice today, and I'll be going back home after I finish the handover. Mrs. Green, I smiled at her, you can come visit me if you miss me. Mrs. Green couldn't say anything. She just kept crying. She held me in her arms for a long time before finally choking out. It's Anthony who has wronged you. If I had known earlier. I'm sorry. I comforted her for a long time before she finally accepted the reality. Anthony only heard about my departure half a month later, on my last day of work handover. I had booked a flight back to my hometown for 10 a.m. the next day. He knocked on my door, his voice hoarse, "Can we talk?" Time really does dull many things. My mood was no longer as hurt as it had been initially, but had transformed into a deeper sense of indifference. "We have nothing to talk about," I said, forcing a smile. "Don't worry, we're parting on good terms. I won't say anything to your mother, and she won't pressure you anymore." "That's not what I meant," he said. I opened the door. Anthony met my gaze, looking dejected. He seemed to have not slept well for some time, visibly haggard. He asked, "What time is your flight tomorrow?" "Can I see you off?" "As you wish," I replied. With that, I closed the door. The next day, Anthony drove me to the airport. I didn't refuse. It was the last time, after all. Even if just for Mrs. Green's sake, I didn't want to end things too awkwardly. After getting out of the car, he handed me my luggage. When I took it, he wouldn't let go. After tugging a few times, I lost patience and gave him a cold look. He lowered his eyes guiltily and gradually released the suitcase. "Keep in touch," he said. I let out a derisive laugh and left without looking back. The first thing I did before boarding the plane was to block Anthony's number. Never crossing paths again was the best ending for us. After returning home, the first thing I did was sleep for 3 days straight. My hometown is nothing like the big city, its pace is always slow, very slow. After the wedding was cancelled, my relatives back home didn't ask many questions. They would just occasionally suggest that I should go out more. A few weeks later, the relatives started trying to set me up on blind dates again. My mom was at her wit's end, but after much persuasion, she managed to talk them out of it. Over the years, I had saved up quite a bit of money. All in all, it amounted to about £300,000. I put most of this money into a fixed-term savings account and invested a small portion. My high school friend, Enid White, was planning to start a social media channel. When she heard I was back, she kept pestering me to join her venture. The main idea was to create a street friendship program. Simply put, we randomly interview a stranger. If they want to make friends, they can write down their characteristics on paper. And we'll pass it on to the next person, she explained. If they think it's a good match, we'll arrange for them to meet. I was already considering what to do next. So when I heard Enid's idea, we hit it off immediately. I transferred £50,000 as startup capital for our venture. Enid hugged me, kissing and squealing with excitement. The two of us working together, we're bound to go viral. I felt a bit helpless, but also a bit happy. Perhaps it was because a new life was right before my eyes. Whether we succeeded or failed, I was excited about the prospect of a different path in life. After deciding to start our social media channel, we began researching accounts and filming techniques. Our first shoot was at the university campus, where we randomly grabbed a few passers-by. However, the response was lukewarm. So, we decided to set our next location at a primary school. This time, I performed much more smoothly. Interacting with younger children always feels less tense. After finishing the shoot, we were about to go for a meal. Suddenly, Enid grabbed my hand and exclaimed, "Handsome guy." Not far away, under the shade of trees, stood a young man in a black suit. He had an inverted triangle physique and was quite good-looking. He seemed to have been watching us for a while. He jogged over, his cheeks slightly flushed. "Is this a friendship platform?" he asked. He held out his phone to me and said, "Can I get to know you?" Ding! My phone received 2 text messages. It was from an unknown number. There was a photo of Anthony Green and Gina Castle holding hands. The caption read, "They're together now." I couldn't help but wonder who this person was. The nauseating feeling rose again, and I replied, masochistic much. After sending it, I blocked Justin Calder's number. Enid sensed my discomfort and asked quietly, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, just encountered an idiot," I replied. As soon as I said this, I looked up at the young man in front of me and explained, "I didn't mean you." The young man didn't take offense and smiled, "I know." He held out his phone again. "Can we add each other on WhatsApp? My name is Clive Cherry." After exchanging contact details, I returned home. It was only through my mother's hesitant words that I learned the truth. My encounter with Clive wasn't a coincidence after all. We were, in fact, schoolmates from secondary school. I rummaged through a box and found our graduation photo. It took me several attempts to match the scrawny boy in the corner of the picture with the man I'd met today. I had no recollection of him whatsoever. My mum mused, "Who knows? He might have been a secret admirer." Years later, two people meet again, and sparks fly. I chuckled, "How many romance novels have you been reading?" Having already misinterpreted Antony's intentions once, I wasn't about to make the same mistake twice. I opened the profile of my newly added friend on WhatsApp. "So we were schoolmates at secondary," I typed. He seemed to be typing, deleting, and retyping before finally responding. "You don't mind, do you?" "Why would I mind?" "Then let's meet up more often." Followed quickly by, "I don't have many friends here." Over the next few weeks, Clive would pop up unexpectedly, eventually offering to lend a hand with our work. He had a lovely personality, lively, kind, and energetic. He could chat away with 80-year-old ladies just as easily as anyone else. My mom, of course, was even more taken with him. Once, when she bumped into him, she insisted on inviting him home for dinner. I whispered to him, "You seem different from when we first met." He didn't catch on at first. When he realized I was referring to his transformation from suit-wearing professional to youthful casual dresser, he scratched his head and smiled sheepishly. "Well, I thought first impressions were important. And they're not anymore?" He leaned in, eyes bright. "Now, it's the second impression that matters." I wasn't fond of the suit-wearing professional type. Nor was I looking for a relationship. When I noticed Clive's intentions, I addressed the matter directly. That day, he drove straight to my house. "Look out the window," he texted. Clive was holding a balloon, gradually letting it float upwards. I reached out and caught it, noticing the words attached. "Will you be my first friend in this city?" We each held one end of the balloon string. In the silence, the moonlight shone lonely on the man below. He must have been very nervous. It was as if every second of my hesitation was pronouncing his sentence. I secured the balloon to my window. I sent him a WhatsApp message. "Hello, new friend." Clive smiled. I received a message from Antony 2 months later. He had changed his number and texted me. When I blocked him, he kept switching numbers. Once, I accidentally answered, but there was silence on the other end. My patience was wearing thin. "Antony, can you please stop bothering me?" His voice was hoarse. "Mum misses you." "When will you come visit her?" At the mention of Mrs. Green, I felt my resolve weaken. During this time, she would occasionally transfer money to me. Probably worried I'd be unemployed without any security. Seeing I wouldn't accept it, she started sending me healthy recipes instead. I remember when I first came to the Green household. She did the same, always finding new ways to cook for me. When I fell ill, she stayed up all night to take care of me. I couldn't bring myself to be cruel to her. Consequently, I couldn't completely despise Antony either. Sensing my softening attitude, he pressed on, "Or I could come pick you up." "Aren't you back with Gina?" I interrupted him. There was a moment of silence on the other end. I laughed bitterly. "Is this how you treat all your girlfriends? Always looking for the next while you're with one?" "Antony," I took a deep breath, "don't you think you're being pathetic?" After that night, Antony went quiet for a long time. I thought that was the end of it between us. Until I unexpectedly ran into Justin in this small town. Clive and I had just left the university area. A black Maybach stopped in front of us. When that face appeared, the smile vanished from mine. "So you've got a new boyfriend?" He sneered, Oi. Mate, do you know what she used to look like? Before he could finish, Clive's fist flew at him. I was startled. Justin retaliated without hesitation. Someone nearby called the police. As it was mutual assault, they both signed a reconciliation agreement and were released. Justin rubbed his injured face and spat viciously. I walked up to him and grabbed his collar. What's wrong with you? He looked at me playfully, suddenly smiling. Yeah, I'm messed up. So what? He tried to touch my hand. I quickly let go. He smoothed out his collar instead. Anthony and Gina broke up. He still can't get over you. I was worried a text wouldn't get the message across, so I came to tell you in person. Who knew you'd be so? He bent down, his mouth curving into a wide grin, ungrateful. I stared at him expressionlessly. He seemed to lose interest. I grabbed Clive's hand. He was momentarily stunned, then gripped mine tighter. I just wanted to leave as quickly as possible, not noticing Clive's reddening ears beside me, nor Justin's suddenly cold expression. Hey, Justin called out to me again, his gaze complex and deep. Why don't you get back with Anthony? I promise I won't insult you anymore. You're mental. For the first time in months, I sent Anthony a message. Can you keep your dog on a leash? Perhaps it was due to my intense anger. That night, I unusually dreamed of my high school days. With my robust and powerful physique, I seemed to become the center of attention wherever I went. Sometimes, the malice of youth comes inexplicably. They would push and shove, taunting. Do you dare to kiss her? Bloody hell, are you asking for a smack? Go compare with her, see whose is bigger. Once, when I returned from the loo, a girl's shoelace had come undone, and the class troublemaker was leering at the glimpse of her exposed neckline. I still remember that gaze, so nauseating it made my skin crawl. As I walked past, I deliberately stepped on his foot. He angrily tried to hit me, but Anthony blocked his punch. Anthony gripped the boy's hand, pinning him against the wall with one hand pressing his face. He said coldly, "Apologize." The sunlight that day seemed to carry a faint scent of fresh grass. My heart fluttered unexpectedly. When I woke up, my pillow was already damp with tears. It was only 2 in the morning. I got up and poured myself a glass of water, suddenly hearing a noise outside the door. Opening it, I saw Anthony. His face looked weary, leaning against his car door, with cigarette butts scattered on the ground. The cold wind made his face pale, and he seemed to have lost weight. Seeing me, his previously unfocused gaze gradually cleared. The next second, the door closed again. I lay back in bed and received a new message on my mobile. Sorry about Justin's behavior. I've fallen out with him, he won't bother you again. After a moment's hesitation, he added, Gina and I have broken up. Anthony had temporarily settled in this town. Every time I went downstairs, he was waiting outside. When I returned in the evening, he was still standing there. I ignored him. My mom ignored him too. People should have self-respect and self-love. But you can't stop a dog from trying to guard a house, she said. After a pause, she added, it's not even his house. During this time, my social media work finally started to gain some traction, and I began to receive small advertising contracts. Enid and I worked even harder. We stretched each day to feel like 2. I rushed about frantically, racking my brains for content ideas. In a moment of carelessness born from excitement, I didn't see clearly and got my leg scraped by a bicycle. Enid supported me, asking, are you all right? Clive had already run off like the wind. He returned with bags full of medicine, enduring Enid's teasing. Still catching his breath, he looked at me with sparkling eyes. May I? What? Apply the medicine for you. In the end, I didn't let Clive help. I found a nearby chair and treated the scrape myself. The shoot ended early, and Clive insisted on driving me home. The car crawled like a tortoise, with him nervously looking left and right. I didn't call him out on it. A journey that usually took half an hour stretched to an hour and a half before we arrived home. After parking, he hurried to open the car door for me, naturally offering his hand for support. Thank you, I said. As I turned, my steps faltered. Anthony was leaning against the wall, his gaze fixed on me. His face was pale, his lips moving silently. He approached. Clive noticed my discomfort and asked quietly, "Is it someone you dislike?" "Yes." I walked past, ignoring Anthony, but he caught the edge of my coat. I turned a lifeless gaze upon him. He seemed to snap back to reality and let go. Looking down at my foot, he asked, "Have you applied medicine?" He was met with silent indifference. The door closed in his face once more, just as it had countless times before. No response. After I closed the door, the sound of sizzling came from the kitchen. My mom's eyes lit up when she saw Clive. "Clive, dear. Why don't you stay for dinner?" He looked at me hesitantly. I nodded. "It's not like we can't spare an extra plate." He smiled happily, dimples appearing at the corners of his mouth. I asked him, "Aren't you curious about who that was?" "I can guess," he said, changing his shoes. "But it doesn't matter." He moved closer to me. "You said you dislike him, so he's not important now." By the time we finished dinner, it was already 9 o'clock. The moon hung high in the sky. My mom asked me to see Clive out. As soon as I opened the door, the smile vanished from my mom's face. "Standing out here in the dead of night, scaring people," she exclaimed. Clive's gaze fell on Anthony, a meaningful smile playing on his lips. "Goodbye, Mrs. Sinclair." As I walked Clive to his car, I reminded him to be careful on the road. Suddenly, someone grabbed my hand. Clive pulled me into his arms, very gently. He whispered in my ear, "A hug between friends, is that okay?" "You've already done it without asking." "I'm sorry." Clive was forcefully pulled away. Anthony grabbed him by the collar, his fist raised. Like a wild beast in a frenzy. Anthony Green. His body froze, his eyes reddening. I couldn't understand his expression. He was the one who wanted to separate, yet now he was acting like this. Clive smiled, both mischievous and disdainful. He asked me, "Should we call the police?" Anthony persisted, "Who is he? Your boyfriend?" "Anthony, we've already broken up." "I know." He became flustered, tears falling one by one as he stuttered out a few syllables. "But I regret it, I regret it. Myra." "But I don't," I rejected him outright. "I don't regret breaking up with you. And I won't regret leaving Northminster, so I won't look back. Whether I have a boyfriend, whether it's him or someone else, who I marry in the future, none of that has anything to do with you. Because that person won't be you." The sword of Damocles finally fell, and the hope in his eyes vanished completely. That night, Anthony didn't stay downstairs. Much later, one night, I received a text from Anthony. It had been 2 months since we last met. "Can we meet one last time? Just to say goodbye properly." This time, I replied, "Okay." Outside the window, a light snow began to fall, covering everything in white. Without realizing it, this year, too, seemed to be coming to an end. It was an ending, but also a beginning. I agreed to meet Anthony at a nearby cafe. Thick snow covered the ground, and street cleaners had started their early morning shift. When I left, only tire tracks remained on the road. The pavement was still covered in snow, its surface frozen into ice. I kicked at it, and what seemed solid quickly crumbled. I chuckled. My smile quickly faded as I saw Anthony standing not far away, his gaze fixed deeply on me. For a moment, I felt transported back to our school days. On snowy winter days, I loved nothing more than making snowballs and kicking them away. Anthony would open the window and call out, "Mum says come up for dinner." "Coming!" I'd reply with a smile, then turn and run back inside. As I approached him now, Anthony sighed softly in my ear. I almost thought we were back in the old days. He smiled bitterly. "But this time, it's to say goodbye." We sat at opposite ends of the table. I ordered a coffee and glanced at the time. "I only have an hour." "About the diary." "I'm sorry," he said as he sat down. "I apologize. I'm not bothered about that anymore. If..." His hands fidgeted nervously. "If it wasn't for the diary, could we?" "There are no ifs," I interrupted. Even without the diary, we wouldn't be possible. I've always wondered something, he said, looking confused. After all our years together, why wouldn't you give me even one chance? Let me ask you this, I said, suppressing my irritation. Why did you get together with me in the first place? He remained silent. To repay a debt, I summarized this absurd situation. What gives you the right? I smiled slowly. What makes you think your affection is some kind of gift to me? Just because I liked you? But in reality, not long after I confessed to you, I had already moved on. When I saved you back then, it was more because of our friendship. I would have done the same for anyone. If you hadn't given me hope afterwards, I would have quickly adjusted and started a new life. I was good to you because I thought you were worth it, that's why I treated you well. I lowered my head, stirring my coffee, unable to hold back a laugh. Anthony, love might be beautiful, but it's not big enough to ruin someone's life. Even without you, I would still have lived a good life. What I care about is that you had so many chances to tell me you didn't love me. But you chose the worst way possible, tying us together. You wasted 7 years of your life. And you wasted mine too. Anthony suddenly stood up, his eyes filled with panic. Wanting to explain but not knowing where to start. He closed his eyes, the corners moist. It's not like that, You didn't realize your own feelings? Seeing him nod, I laughed harder. Since I was little, my mom always told me not to let people I dislike anger me. You only need to care about those who are worth it. That's why even with Justin's behavior, I never made a fuss with you. Firstly, I didn't care about his opinions or views. And secondly, I didn't want you to be unhappy. That's what liking someone means. Liking someone is a very obvious and clear thing, at least to me. I liked you, so I wanted to be good to you. But what about your feelings? I asked. Anthony remained silent. If I hadn't found that diary, and we had gotten married, you would have felt unsatisfied afterwards. You would have felt morally obligated, and our marriage would still have been unhappy. You don't seem to realize even now. Even after all this time, I couldn't completely suppress the turmoil in my heart. We didn't break up because of the diary, or because of Justin. It was because of your self-perceived tolerance, which was actually arrogance. You were looking down on me. But I'm not entirely blameless. Under his nervous, anxious gaze, I said softly. My mistake was not cutting my losses sooner. When you allowed your friend's attitude towards me, I should have realized it was time to end things with you. Today is the last time I'll see you, out of respect for your mother. I picked up my bag, and he hurriedly stood up. Let's not meet again, Anthony. Without looking back at him, I left. As I pushed open the door, my phone rang right on cue. Enid urged, "Are you done? We're waiting for you at the dinner. If you don't come soon, someone might come after you." I curved my lips into a smile. On my way. In March, I received a commission from a young girl. The weather was still chilly despite the approaching spring. She wore a thin school uniform. Her left eye looked strange, as if it were blind. On the main street, she stopped us. "Miss, can I make friends here?" "I want to make friends." The little girl's name was Rowena Nash. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was young. And her grandmother had raised her single-handedly. Her grandmother often scolded her, calling her a jinx, and ignored her, viewing her left eye as an ill omen. Her classmates bullied her too. "Nobody likes me," she said, her voice dropping. Because of this commission, we began searching various primary schools. Finally, we found a girl at Central Primary School. The girl had a sweet smile, like a little sun. When we brought her over, she hopped and skipped all the way. Her parents followed, smiling helplessly. "This child has always been a bit wild," they said. Then, as if afraid we might misunderstand, they added, "But there's nothing wrong with that. Indeed, there's nothing wrong with it. Whether lively or quiet, isn't it all her?" When the two girls met, it took less than 15 minutes for them to hit it off. The girl lowered her head and said earnestly, "Your eye isn't ugly at all. They just don't have good taste. From today on, I'm your friend." I spoke up as well, so am I. Enid added, me too. The girl's mother crouched down and patted Rowena's head. My home isn't far from here. If you miss Jillian, you can come over, and I'll make you something delicious. As we were leaving, I said to the little girl, don't pay too much attention to what people who don't like you say. Those things aren't important enough. What's important is that you know who you are. I once read a quote in Sophie Turner's book. I want to be my own intimate lover, my loyal comrade. Self-respect, self-love, self-confidence, for life, till death do us part. The girl looked bewildered, and I smiled, hugging her close. Rowena, you are a very, very good person. I didn't post this topic right away. I told Enid that I still had some bonus content to record. While editing the video at home that evening, I heard a car outside. Clive called, Myra, come downstairs. We hadn't seen each other for almost a week. During this time, he had started a new job at a company and had to fly abroad for business. He had been incredibly busy. When I went downstairs, he was opening the boot of his car. Seeing me, he waved. The boot was full of various snacks he had collected from abroad. He put a few boxes in my arms and held the majority in his own. His tone was casual. These are for ordinary friends. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He jerked his chin up. Friend, lead the way. Our relationship had never progressed further, and he didn't seem to mind at all. Once again, I couldn't help but ask, could it be that you liked me before? I hadn't even figured things out back then. He moved a bit closer to me. I really wanted to be your friend at that time. But you transferred schools not long after, and I was heartbroken. Back then, Clive was thin and insecure, always walking with his head down, while Myra always held her head high, fighting back against the malice she shouldn't have had to bear. The teenage Clive thought, I really want to be friends with Myra. But in those years, he never took that step forward. The day he learned she had transferred schools, Clive hid at home and cried. Clive never told Myra that when he was 23, they had a brief encounter due to company business. She didn't recognize him, but he recognized her. Later, when he had a conflict with the company's boss over their vision, he returned to his hometown. When he learned that Myra had come back, the first thing he did was to take the initiative. He wanted so badly to be friends with Myra. After truly getting to know Myra, those hazy things from before were unveiled, and he saw a more real and brave Myra. It wasn't love at first sight for him, but more like a love that grew over time. A seed planted in secondary school, taking root and sprouting years later. Myra was shocked to hear this. I never imagined that someone wanted to be my friend so much back then. Clive propped his chin up and looked at her. You shine on your own. People on the same wavelength will always be attracted to you. He was grateful that fate had brought him and Myra back together after all its twists and turns. Myra said to take it slow. He thought that was fine. Because he didn't like fast-paced love either. Extra episode. After parting ways with Myra at the cafe, Anthony never sent her another message. Years of feelings had turned into this. Every time he thought about it, he felt a sharp pain in his heart. But he was the one who had caused all of this. After Justin made a scene at her place, Anthony had a huge argument with him. He couldn't understand why Justin harbored such malice towards her, clinging to her like a dog that wouldn't let go. It wasn't until Justin kept repeating, "Why don't you go and win her back then? What's so great about York that she wants to stay there?" Only then did Anthony sense something different in Justin's distorted words. He narrowed his eyes. You like her? Justin's body stiffened, and he sneered out of habit, as if I'd like that fa-. You like her. This time it was a statement. Justin dropped the act and decided to come clean. Yes. So what? Is that why she always looks at me like I'm rubbish and ignores me? If she'd just say one kind word to me, I wouldn't have bullied her. Hearing these words, Anthony felt incredulous, and more than that, regretful. He had allowed this venomous snake to tear at Myra for years. But she disgusts you. Doesn't she disgust you too? Justin retorted. I'm different from you. His eyes turned cold as he moved closer to Justin. I have feelings for her. But to Myra, it's all the same. Anthony paid no attention to these words. He went to Myra's hometown, waiting outside her family's flat like a sick man. He wanted to tell Myra that he did like her. He had broken up with Gina, and he didn't love her at all. He wondered if they could start over. But Myra didn't give him that chance. It proved just right. Myra was equally disgusted by him. After Myra left, Anthony sat in the cafe for a long time. When he finally left, he felt lost for a moment. He didn't know where to go. He and Myra no longer had a home. No direction could lead him to a home with Myra. He forced himself to stop focusing on her, throwing himself into work, but ended up in hospital due to exhaustion. In the hospital room, he opened Myra's account. There were her latest videos. One of the videos had some bonus content. It was Myra saying, "To my dear girls. Hello, what are you doing right now? Are you buried in a sea of homework, or bustling about in a busy city? Are you a student, an adult, or a mom? Are you doing well? Are you happy? Whatever your identity, I still want to say to you today, you're really amazing. I used to be a weightlifter, with a sturdy physique, a look that people didn't find attractive enough. I've heard people gossip about me, belittle me, but none of that defines me. As a teenager, I always tried to keep my back straight. I thought, what do they know? I could practice day after day for training, for gaining weight. Of course I should be proud of myself for that. Similarly, I hope that you, watching this screen, are proud of yourself. After university, I worked in a big company, did marketing for a few years. When I resigned, I had a period of inner struggle, but I still chose to give up. I returned to my hometown and decided to take a break. I was lucky. It was then that I suddenly realized that life has a much higher error tolerance than we imagine. When you find you've taken a wrong path, just turn back. Making a new choice is more important than stubbornly going down the wrong path. Of course, it's also fine if you don't turn back, because the next moment might just be a turning point. Dear girls, I hope you're proud of yourselves. I hope you like yourselves. Just like I do. I'm very satisfied with myself. Anthony watched it over and over again, as if torturing himself. The pain in his heart became increasingly clear, and he remembered the girl's cold gaze that day. You're looking down on me. She was never weak, the weak one was always him, escaping problems with emotions. That day, he had a dream. In the dream, it was snowing, and the girl threw herself into his arms after making a snowball. Myra, he mumbled. The girl looked up, her eyes bright and warm. Goodbye. In the dream, he said goodbye to her for the last time. In the dream was the most beautiful season of life. Outside the dream, many years had passed, and everything had changed. It turned out, many years ago, he should have said goodbye gracefully. He understood too late. He had let down a girl for so many years.